What's up, my book friends, and welcome back to All the Things Sort of Truth, the alcohol-fueled, chapter-by-chapter reread of the Sort of Truth series with a big, comfy bed full of craft brew on the side.
That sounds like the most romantic night ever.
It could be.
I'm just saying, if you needed any tips, there you go.
I thought you meant with us. I was like, well, there's a lot of people listening, so... I'm Nate.
I'm Jade.
And today we're going to be talking about Chapter 14 of Stone of Tears.
Fuck yeah, we are.
But before we get into that, I wanted to talk about Into Darkness. It came out just a couple of days ago, and I burned through it, and I know you're burning through it, and I'm really excited to talk about it. And I know, like you were saying earlier, eventually we're going to get there. It's going to take a while, but we'll get there. But in order to stay current, Jade and I have been thinking about releasing some Patreon episodes, maybe like an episode per book, just so we could talk about it, or maybe, I don't know, 5 episodes over the whole arc of the story, something like that. It's not really nailed down, but I'm excited to do that. A lot of people have been posting online, and I still haven't read anything anybody else has said. I still only have my interpretation of everything, but I've been waiting to talk about it until Jade finished, and I'm excited to be able to do so.
Yeah, I'm almost finished. And the nice thing about that is if we do that, that will be a place that we will be able to talk about the books without worrying about spoilers, because we try very hard while we're doing this not to talk about stuff we don't know yet, as per like where we are in the book. Stuff we know, but we don't know, you know?
Right.
So at least this way we'll be able to, like, no holds barred, just be able to talk about whatever we want without worrying about the specifics, because that's a lot of the reason why I don't want to get too far ahead while we're doing this book, because I forget some of this shit. That's why I need you guys to help remind me sometimes. But I think it'll be fun. So if you're not already a patron, but you're really curious about this new series, and you want to skip ahead with us, at least for a moment, all you have to do is pledge just $1, and you get all that content, plus all of our other stuff that we posted up there. You can pledge more if you want to. We would love that. If you don't, that's fine too. But I'm looking forward to that. It's exciting.
All right. So with that, I say we get into the chapter.
Yeah.
So as this chapter starts, the Mud People are starting to prepare for the gathering. And Kahlan is still worried about it. She doesn't like it because Richard literally got smacked in the face with an owl.
Yeah, the blood warning.
Which, yeah, still weird. But Richard feels responsible for all the shit happening, not only because of his actions, but because he's a Rawl.
Yeah, because, I mean, he found that out 5 seconds ago, so all of a sudden all of his decisions need to be based around that.
Well, I just found it funny. Like, I'm adopted. I never got to meet my birth dad, but I know what his last name is. And when I found out what his last name was, that didn't change, like, who I was or what my name was. I mean, I'm connected to that family, but I was raised as something different, so that's what I am. And I'm surprised that Richard didn't kind of see it the same way. Or maybe it's just because of the times. Like, if your dad was in this instance, Rawl, then you are a Rawl. It doesn't matter if somebody else raised you, because it was more to do with bloodline than, like, legal family.
Yeah, I guess so. I think, especially before he realizes that, you know, everything that comes with the name Rawl, I don't know that he would already be accepting the mantle. You know what I mean? He wouldn't already be like, I am a Rawl, maybe. That seems a little quick for him to be like, that is my name, I am that. That is a whole different perspective thinking about it with your adoption in mind. Do you think that if your birth father had done something terrible, like possibly let Satan into the world, you would feel responsible because, like, he did that with the name, your birth last name, and, like, would you feel responsible because that is also you, kind of? Like, it's not you, but it's in you.
The way I look at it is I'm connected. It's not who I am. Obviously, it's not who I am. If, you know, in that certain situation, suppose he was like a serial killer or something like that, and then I found that out, I wouldn't be like, well, I got to start murdering people now. So line him up.
Okay.
Like, I didn't do what he did. I'm my own me.
Would you feel obligated to apologize or make that right? Like if your dad was Bundy.
No, I don't think I would apologize. In Richard's case, he found out he was adopted and that his birth dad was a bastard in the same, like, one fell swoop. It was done for him.
Right.
I knew my whole life. And I think being grown and learning this makes you a little further disconnected from who your birth people are. Like, if you were a child growing up and your dad was doing evil stuff, you probably wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. But maybe you could have given him a little bit more guff than literally anybody else, who he would probably just have murdered. Now, you growing up away from him, having nothing to do with him, and then just learning you're connected to him doesn't make you guilty.
But on the flip side of that, like you were talking about, learning that information about being adopted as an adult probably really fucked his brain up, even if he's not admitting that right now.
Yup.
So that's probably what a lot of that is. It's just like, oh, maybe it is my fault because I am a raw. Blah.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could really say to that is I had a lot more time to process because I was told I was adopted from the get. Mm-hmm. It was never kept from me. I didn't have a big day where they revealed it. I mean, they literally must have talked about it since I was 2 because I don't remember being told I was adopted. I just always knew.
Yeah.
And so I had literally my whole life, even though I had some incorrect assumptions about some of my birth people, I had my whole life to like process that information. So that wasn't the shock. How I felt about some of it, I already knew when time come to like, well, I met my birth mom. I mean, you were there.
Yeah. I was there.
But like, I had a long time to sit and think about exactly what I wanted to say and what needed to be said and how I felt going in so that I could express that to people. And then Richard has all of this dumped on him on the same day. Emotional levels, guarantee you, 9.
Well, on top of the fact that he's dealing with chronic pain and lack of sleep.
And not fully healed ribs.
Yeah, like he's a man on the edge.
Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely.
Now, sins of the father do come up. We were just touching on this a little bit. Richard says he doesn't believe in that. It's not really about what you believe. The sins of the father thing, I believe, is just that the idea that you might be guilty for your father's deeds, but that's not necessarily like a philosophy, I don't think. I think it's mainly based, like, culturally.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's not necessarily a life rule. I think that's a punishment passed down from somebody. Like, your dad was a dick, therefore you are going to be treated as if you were a dick.
Right.
As a punishment. Could even be prison.
Yeah.
He was charged 50 years in prison. He did 40. So guess who's getting 10?
Yeah. And I mean, I it's good that he doesn't, like, quote unquote believe in it, but I don't think anybody who is in the situation to believe in it would really care if he believes in it or not. Right. If he was guilty of the sins of his father. If
it is how he suspects, and that it has to be done by a Rawl because a Rawl broke it, and that way it's like the bloodline putting it all back together, meaning putting the veil back together, then it doesn't really matter at all how you feel about it. If that's what's required, then that's what's required.
Yeah, if it's a magical rule of some kind. But I also think that has turned into a different, like the statement, sins of the father, has turned into something different. Like, if your dad's an asshole, you could be an ass. I feel like I've heard it in a different, more probably modernized way.
Like father, like son. Yeah. Because I know I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
If your dad was just like a, I don't know, drunk, mean asshole, like, then maybe, just maybe, through being a product of a drunk, mean asshole, you'll become a drunk, mean asshole. But I don't think that's the same thing that sins of the father is.
That also makes me think, if your mother has to deal with your dad's sins, quote unquote, and like then he's gone, you do have to deal with that.
you're going to have to deal with the repercussions of that, like the consequences of his being bad.
Like the projection from your mother or outside people on you of your father.
Right. Or, I mean, your father would have affected people in a certain way, and I think their attitudes would change, and then that would be either pointed at you or not. They would just be affected by him.
Right.
He made waves in this world one way or another, and everybody has changed. I mean, that's true of every single human being. You make a change when you're born. Anybody you come into contact with, you have an effect on, whether great or small. That's true. And I think anybody that then comes into contact with that person in some way, like not directly, and yes, I know you could go down a fucking rabbit hole with this, but in some way, then you had an effect on that third person.
I will say, Kahlan does not think it makes sense at all that, like, magically Rawl is tied to fixing the veil because Rawl tore it. She thinks that's just stupid.
That it couldn't be just related to the name Rawl.
I think it doesn't make sense to her that Richard is bound to being the one that has to restore the veil because Rawl is the one that tore it. She doesn't see the connection.
Right. She doesn't really see why that would be Richard's responsibility. My only thing was, like, he's a seeker, and if it comes to his attention at all, and is something of this level, he should probably be involved.
At this point, Kahlan, you went and, like, pulled him out of his woods. Everything has to do with him now.
Just no backing out now. No, we're doing this thing, Kahlan. Come on.
You put him at the center of all the shit.
Yeah.
So really, if anyone's responsible for all of this, it's Kahlan.
It's Kahlan's fault. We solved it, guys. Can all go home now. Nothing to see here. But Richard's plan is to hold the gathering to find out what they can. Look, they need to get to Zed. He's in Aidendrill. That's a long ways away. He wants to have the gathering, get married, then use the tooth that Scarlet ripped out of her face to get to Zed in Aidendrill, thus saving them a long-ass walk where the sisters could catch up to him, or the headaches would bring him down, and he wouldn't be able to, like, complete that journey anyway. So this is the best way to get there. They don't want to get to Zed only to find out he knows nothing and they have no information. So he might as well get the information he can and then go to Zed.
Yeah, because the ancestors know more about the underworld than Zed does, really, than anybody on Earth does, because, you know, they live there.
Yeah. That's their block.
So that was Richard's, like, end run around Kahlan being like, we just skip it. We don't gotta talk to him. He's like, no, we do. I want to, because I'm not gonna go unprepared into the darkness.
Oh, I see what you did there.
So Richard's like, hey, don't worry about that. Don't worry about me talking to the dead people. I'm gonna distract you by talking about the fact that we're gonna have our wedding night in Aidendrill, you know, the place that you really want to get back to, if this all works out.
I mean, it's good motivation, but it kind of felt like, hey, over here, look at the keys. Look at the keys. Oh, I threw the keys. Let's go that way.
You've been humping my leg for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You want to do the thing?
Literally.
Yeah.
Has been humping his leg.
He says they can finally do it in peace and in a bed, because they aren't going to keep having people, like, knocking on the door there, I guess.
Big ass, comfortable bed.
Kahlan is a little bit concerned about what Shota said about, you know, them having babies and the whole Richard won't murder their baby thing. But Richard is determined that he's going to find an answer for anything that keeps him from Kahlan's big, comfy bed.
Fucking A right. I'm the seeker, baby. We're going to get there, okay? I promise. We are getting to the bed.
I would really be having a tough time being like, we can't, just like 5 minutes.
5 minutes. It's been a long time. It's going to take 2. Let's be real. Come on. Let's just...
We don't have to do the whole thing. Like, there's other things we could do.
I was going to say just the tip, because that never works.